Hey everyone! Show us your appreciation for our hard work by going and supporting our sponsor, the War for the Tower podcast. You can find them by searching War for the Tower on your podcatcher or going to warforthetower.com.
This is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, covering Doctor Who, Season 8, Episode 2. Yes, that's right, 2, not 1. 1 is gone. 1 isn't happening. Get ready for 2. Sorry. Welcome to Unspoiled. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm Jamie.
All right, everybody, so here's what happened.
What had happened
We don't know what happened. There. Explanation given.
Half of the recording disappeared, and I apologize, but I don't know what happened. It was
More
all
than
there.
half. You should have had a 2-hour and 20-minute file. And you had a 29-minute file. I have no idea. Jamie has no idea. It's just gone. That's just where it ended. It decided.
Yep.
So, and, you know, when I have, like, partial files, sometimes I'll post what I have because it still feels like I should put some content out there and I can make it work. But the section that we had, it just didn't make sense to post by itself. It was just, like, a bunch of random talk. We barely, like, even talk about the episode initially because that's just how you and I roll. And it ends really abruptly and weirdly, and there was no way to, like, do that gracefully. It just really wasn't going to be worth it to post. So I just decided not to do it, and we would just sort of recap in brief our impressions of the first episode of the season. And our first episode with Dr. 12. I'm saying season 8. So it's just, it is a shame, though, for it to be like the first episode of the new season and the new Doctor and to have lost that one. And it was a pretty fun episode. You know, like there's a whole thing with dinosaur in England and weird clockwork people. And I actually rather enjoyed it, even though there were parts that I was like, this doesn't work, because that's just going to happen.
Yeah, and then the tie-in back to The Girl in the Fireplace, and yeah, it was a fun episode, and I think the most important thing that we need to let people know is what is your impression of this new Doctor so far?
Really, the most important thing that we should let people know is that I was right about calling him eyebrows, and I feel really vindicated, and I am smug. So that's that.
What else is new?
Everybody's like, smug? You? Ha! Never. Yeah, so far, I am a fan. I really enjoyed in this episode. We didn't get a full personality from him last time because there was so much of him not being himself yet.
Right.
Which I kind of forget is a thing, that when he regenerates, he's like kind of out of it for a little while. But this episode, it felt like they're really going to explore, like, him being kind of a dickhead. And I've been lulled into thinking that we're going to deal with that in the past, and then we kind of haven't. So I'm cautiously optimistic about it, but we shall see if that winds up being a thing or not. I feel like more positive about it simply because Clara's response to whether he's a good man is, I don't know. Mm-hmm. And previously, I really feel like this has been softened. He'll be like, am I a good man? And then by the end of the episode, they're like, you are a good man. A good man wouldn't do such and such. And they sort of walk back the doubt itself, even.
Yeah.
And they leave it open-ended at the end of this, where she's like, you're trying. And I think that's what counts. That's the point. Which, that's not incorrect, but also not exactly really an answer or a vindication or an excuse. So I'm hopeful about that. And excited.
There's
a
piece of trivia about that in particular. The 12th Doctor questions his morality. Right before the 6th Doctor's conscious identity of who he was and what he stood for faded out of existence after inducing his own regeneration, he decided to let go of his moral restraints and hesitations. This was in an audio play, I guess. Giving rise to the much more manipulative 7th Doctor. The 8th Doctor took this a step further and let go of the name of the Doctor to become a warrior, regenerating into the aggressive and uncompromising War Doctor, which is from the Night of the Doctor, which I think is like a little mini thing. Not positive. I don't think that's something we watched. Okay. And then after forgetting how he saved Gallifrey, the 9th Doctor showed a higher level of aggression and darkness than his predecessors. Similarly, the 10th Doctor turned unwilling to give anyone a second chance shortly after regenerating. As you remember, in the Christmas invasion, he was like, fuck them, they tried to enslave everybody, kill them. And then decided he didn't want to do that. And then Harriet Jones was like, nope, kill him. So yeah, I mean, I'm just like, I'm hopeful that we're going to explore this and be a little bit more honest about it. You know, I just feel like it's been really hinted at and then just sort of let go. Yeah, we've had several seasons, especially with the 11th Doctor, of sort of hero worship. And that goes back to Rose with the 10th Doctor and all of the companions minus Donna having a certain amount of hero worship for the Doctor. And so it's interesting to have Clara be like, I don't know if you're a good guy. Because you're kind of the same guy, but you're not. This was something that we talked about for the last episode that we don't really need to get totally into, but you and I were both a little bit confused at the fact that Clara is so traumatized by her doctor being gone. Yeah. When she has allegedly lived through a bunch of his timelines when he's been in different bodies. Yeah. And it's just not really clear whether she remembers that because they behave like she doesn't, but then they hint that she does. And so while I initially had a lot of sympathy for her, feeling like he was gone, once you pointed out that she should, of all people, be the most used to this, I was like, oh, that's true. Yeah, I mean, granted, she probably didn't witness all of those regenerations, but she's aware. She understands that he's always the same person. His personality might be slightly changed, but deep down, it's still the Doctor. He's still that guy. He just is in a different body, and certain traits come out stronger depending. But it doesn't look like she spent an intense amount of time with any of those other Doctors, but she's definitely aware of them and knows that this is something that the Doctor does. Yeah, I'm curious if any of y'all out there have like an explanation or, a headcanon for what the deal is with her and how much she actually knows and remembers and what she doesn't. But I find myself constantly with her feeling like they decide whatever they want her to know on the spur of the plot at the moment. And it can be a little bit frustrating because it's just like, you guys don't even know, do you? Like, y'all haven't decided. So, all right, let's start talking about this episode. Okay. We begin with a crash, or what is gonna be like a crash. There is a ship that's like radioing back to the main ship, Aristotle. And it is weaving in and out of meteors. But are these meteors when they're asteroids. Not like on fire? Asteroids, that's the one. And she's also saying that the enemy are right on top of us. But do we know who the enemy are? Are the enemy Daleks? Like, is that who the big ship is that's shooting at them? Yeah. But we don't know that at this point. Okay. All of a sudden, she's like with her brother. And I think that later it's mentioned that there are like 2 other people on board also, or one other person, because the Doctor saves one of them.
But
no, I think it was just her and her brother in that ship.
Was it? Okay, there's a moment with his dialogue. I'm trying to find the spot. Let's see. He says, "You'll probably feel a bit sick." She says, "Where's my brother?" He says, "Hello, I'm the doctor. He was right beside me. Where's Kai? How did I get here?" And he, does his whole explanation thing. And he is very, very unmoved at the fact that she has just lost her brother. Mm-hmm. I think saved your life, but do please keep crying. My brother just died. His sister didn't. You're very welcome. That's what it is. I misheard him and thought he said your sister didn't. Gotcha. Okay. I have the subtitles on now, but I didn't have it when I first watched it, and I really think that was a mistake. Yeah, there's absolutely no sympathy here from him. The fact that she isn't falling all over herself to thank him for saving her life. He is just, very irritated, and oh man, it's super gross, and I just wanted to slap him, and I'm so glad that Clara does slap him later on. Very, very gratifying. He needed it. So eventually she's like trying to hold him at gunpoint and make him return her to her ship, and eventually browbeats her into saying please, which just honestly, go fuck yourself forever. I hate you. I really hate you. And she finally does, and he takes her back and then gets jumped by the staff of the Aristotle, who are all soldiers, because this is a very secret government facility, whatever, and he can't know about it. And what if he's one of the what does he call it? Replicants?
I don't remember the terminology, but
basically they can't guarantee who the doctor is, so they're just like, yeah, we're just gonna literally kill you and throw you out the airlock kind of thing. It's pretty brutal. There's no ceremony about this. Guy's like, yeah, I'm really sorry, but yeah, guys, shoot him and then toss his body out. Exit 3, basically.
It makes me wonder if somehow there are Daleks that manage to look like people, which is something that they tried in that 1920s episode with the pig people. Remember?
Oh, God. This just out of context, describing these episodes, really, it's just fucking Mad Libs. The 20s episode with the pig people,
and Andrew Garfield. That's what that Dalek was trying to do, was to splice in human DNA and evolve the Daleks, which didn't work really, and.
I mean, we've had Daleks take human corpses.
Have we?
Yeah. I mean, there was that whole thing with...
Oh, right, with where they, make puppets out of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. So I guess this could be them wondering if it's that sort of situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So the doctor, the way that he is, it's just yeah, you're not going to kill me. We're definitely not going to be doing things your way. That's not happening. And she sort of stands up for him because he saved her life, and also because he says something about how he's a doctor and they apparently need a doctor. And they have come up with some technology that miniaturizes living matter in order to send surgeons into a body to do surgery. Which really, to me, doesn't feel like the most helpful thing.
Yeah.
If anything, I would think it'd be easier if you could just make the body bigger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're trying to get a hold of this tiny vein, and you're like, hey, can you times 10 this vein real quick? Because I can't get it. And that would be, but make me way smaller so that this vein is that much more ungainly to me because I need to move it. That feels like it's not good. Any surgeons out there, let me know. What would you prefer? Whoever you're working on to be bigger, or for you to be smaller? Which one is best for you? I guess it depends on how much smaller, because we don't know if this, like, super miniature size is the only setting.
Yeah.
You may be able to shrink yourself, like 5% or something to make it that much easier.
I just don't know why being smaller to perform surgery would make any sense whatsoever unless they're using it for this specific reason, which is to get inside of a Dalek.
Yeah, because, like, it's not like you can go in somebody's bloodstream and float around. Like,
I mean, you can if it's Inner Space, which is a great movie. But you don't do surgery when you're flying around in a little capsule in someone's bloodstream.
I mean, this capsule is not small enough.
No.
To be in somebody's bloodstream. You would have to get down to, like, micro. I mean,
which is what,
even then,
in Inner Space, that's what they did.
You would be like a blood clot. You would kill them.
Yeah.
How could you possibly do anything? It's nonsense. It's fine. Oh, by the way, the intros for this episode and the last one have, like, the gears.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's going to continue with the whole season, because they will change things up sometimes midway. But I do really enjoy the gears and the planet spinning, and then his eyebrows pretty much being, like, front and center. It just made me laugh a little bit. So that's the intro, is, like, them being like, oh, we're going to make you a doctor for us to work on this thing. And then we go to credits. And when we come back, we're with this dude that we've never met before, whose name I'm forgetting, Mr. Pink.
Danny Pink.
And he is, like, yelling at kids. And then it turns out that this is, like, sort of like a coaching thing. And he's being pretty aggressive with them. And is like, what are you, children? And they're like, yes. And, well, you think you're funny? Yes. Which is actually pretty good. It's a weird transition.
Mm-hmm.
And it sort of feels like we're heading in the direction of, like, this whole season being about soldiers. Because this comes up with the doctor as well. He's like, what's her face in the end? I forget her name. She asks for him to take her with him. And he says, I'm just sorry that you're a soldier.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is a really weird way to go. Okay.
Her name is Journey.
Right.
Journey Blue.
What? I mean, that feels even worse than River Song. Am I wrong? Right? Journey Blue.
Well, they hint at something here where Clara later is like, oh, I just met someone named Pink. And
right.
She says, well, aren't you lucky? So I wonder if there's, like, a reason.
It does feel like, especially with them both being soldiers, I'm like, okay, it feels like you're doing something here.
Yeah.
But I don't know. And just the fact that the doctor is so, like, anti-soldier, I'm just kind of like, that's unexpected and sort of weird.
Yeah, I mean, there's been so many times in the past where he's worked with UNIT, and obviously, we've talked about this before, where he's like, no guns, and he does get frustrated with the soldiers because they're always sort of shoot first, ask questions later. But specifically saying, like, derogatory things about soldiers seems new to this doctor.
Yeah, it's like, I think by the end of this, we're supposed to think that he's equating her in some ways with, like, the Daleks. Because he keeps on referring to the Daleks as, like, the perfect soldiers and whatnot. But I don't really see how that works. I mean, we don't know anything about her.
Maybe it's because this doctor does remember what he did in the Time War, whereas 9, 10, and 11 mostly didn't.
Maybe.
I don't know.
I mean, if that's the case, I want to be shown that more,
right?
So then we see him, like, teaching class. Well, first he goes in and there's, like, a woman asking him, like, what did you do this weekend? And he's like, oh, I was reading. And she's like, you were fucking multiple women all weekend long. I can tell, you slut.
I bet you were.
What is her deal?
I don't know. And he doesn't know either. He's just like, what?
He seems really uncomfortable. Yeah, it's just a sort of, like, conversation that I'm like, man, if this were a dude talking to a woman like this, I'd be like, literally, like, jump off a bridge. What are you doing?
I mean, you can feel that way about her, too.
Yeah, it's just the kind of thing that, you know, you realize in the moment that you have a totally different reaction when it's a woman.
Yeah.
Like, I found it really annoying and just kind of like, what's your problem? But I didn't hate her. You know, I was just kind of like, that's a weird fucking way to act. So then we go to him in the classroom, and he's like wrapping up and asks all the kids if any of them have any questions. And one of them says, "Sir, have you ever killed a man?" And everybody in class groans, like he asks this question every day, or like this question is asked of this teacher all the time. Mm-hmm. It's a weird thing because when everybody groans, the kid himself looks puzzled. So I don't know if it's supposed to be that he's like a new student and doesn't realize that everybody always asks this.
Isn't he the same one who was like, "Are you trying to be funny?" Is it not the same kid?
I don't know because his back is to the camera the whole time.
That's true. I thought it was the same kid. So I got the impression that they groaned because this kid always is sort of inappropriate.
Oh, okay. He seems so confused, though. Like, it doesn't even seem like he's trying to make a joke. He looks around and is like, why is everybody acting like that? And the teacher says something about how, you know, I'm a soldier and there were soldiers who weren't on our side. Can you just ask something else? And the kid says, have you ever killed anyone who wasn't a soldier? And he gets real weird and is like, so just to let you all know again, questions on page 32 and everything on 33, and all that in for Thursday. Is that clear? And the camera sort of zooms in on his face, and he is, I don't even want to say crying. There's just a tear.
Yeah.
And this leads to this whole weird thing later with Clara, because he says something about like adding a morality into being a soldier, and she says, "Oh, so what? You kill somebody and then you cry about it?"
Yeah,
which is honestly the sickest burn. Holy shit! Oh, she's trying to be funny, but like, ouch, girl, that was harsh. I loved it. I loved it, to be honest.
And she really does think that she's just being cute. And he was like, oh, it got around that fast? And she's like, what? And he's like, about the crying. And she's like, I was trying to be funny. And he's like, were you? And she's like, yes.
Oh, I felt so bad for him. He's just... Look, who's not going to be flustered talking to a woman who looks like this, first of all? And second of all, a comment that pointed... You would have to think that they knew what had just happened. Of course you'd think that, you know?
Yeah.
I really felt for him in this. I just, like, I think about, too, you know, with my dad and how I just asked him once if he had ever killed anybody. And he just got really quiet and then said, you ask too many questions. And I knew him. He was my dad. And it was still suddenly felt very inappropriate for me to have asked. And here's this random child in a classroom.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, kid, shut the fuck up. You know? Like, no, not now. Like, Jesus.
Most of the, like, military people that I've known in my life have been Navy. Mm-hmm. So not a whole lot of ground infantry killing machines. Right. But I've known people in the Army. And I've never said, oh, you were in Iraq? Did you kill anyone? Why would you ask that? Yep.
It's just because you don't understand the gravity of it. You think of it as a fucking video game.
Right.
You know, and you just don't really understand what it does to a person. And maybe it's because it wouldn't do that to you because you're terrible. Or it wouldn't do that to you yet because you're a child still. And you don't get it. Your brain isn't developed. You don't understand things. So Clara tries to get him to, like, come to this thing that's happening for work, some sort of get-together, and he says he can't go, and it's, like, intercut with him later in his classroom pounding his head on the desk because he should have said all kinds of things that he did not say, and he's super mad at himself. And it turns out that Clara's, like, right there and hears him talking to himself the whole time, and honestly... I can't think of anything more humiliating. Oh my God, I would die.
Well, he looked like he wanted to.
There. Oh my God.
He's like, how much of that did you hear? And she's like, probably more than you'd be comfortable with.
I wouldn't go out with her. I wouldn't do it. It's too late. You've seen the unvarnished thing that is me. I don't even get to like have control over it anymore. I'm not going out on a date with you. I'm sorry. I want to be able to have a modicum of control of when my mess becomes totally visible. And if you just took that away from me, and now it's just we've advanced too far into the like contempt part of familiarity, and it's just beyond saving. Sorry, so it's over before it began.
The first time I met Jason, it was at a bar. He was a friend of friends, and he came up to me, and according to him, his intention was to say that I was the hottest girl in the bar. But what he said to me was, if it weren't for your friend, you'd be the hottest girl in the bar. And I was like, I looked at my friend and I was like, who the fuck is this guy? And he was like, what? And I was like, was that supposed to be a compliment? And he was like, what? And I was like, no. And I just refused to talk to him. I was just like, I don't know what that was. Like some kind of backhanded compliment, but it felt like an insult.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so then the next few times that I saw him, he kept buying me drinks because he felt so bad. And he was like, the words came out wrong. It was that your friend was monopolizing my time. So what I was trying to say was, if it weren't for your friend, I would be paying more attention to you. But the words all came out wrong. And I was like, yeah, those words were not great.
Oh my God.
And I did eventually, obviously, give him a second chance. But I'll never forget that because I was just like, what?
Oh my God, that is excruciating. I would literally have like thrown my drink in his face or done something really dramatic. That is hilarious.
I'm really good at ignoring people, so I was just like, no. And I just turned away and wouldn't even acknowledge him for the rest of the night. I was just like,
that's fair.
I don't know who this guy is, but that felt really insulting. So, and it's not like I have such a big ego that I was like, I can't believe you don't think I'm the hottest girl in the bar.
No, but it's just like, it's like you would think he was negging you.
That's what it felt like.
Yeah, 100%. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
God, Jason. Get a hold of yourself.
He, like, sometimes will say things still where I'm like, oh, if it wasn't for my friend, I'd be the hottest girl in the bar. And he's like, will you stop?
I love when there's something, like, embarrassing that your partner did that you can just sort of, like, bring up whenever. Oh, and when he first came to visit me when I was living with my mom, and I think that we all picked him up at the airport and, like, immediately went out to eat. And he was very overexcited. And he accidentally, we were sitting in the back seat and my mom and stepdad were in the front seat. And he was gesticulating and slammed his elbow into my nose. And I really thought he'd broken my nose. Like,
my God.
It was the kind of thing where I wasn't crying, but there were tears pouring out of my eyes because that just happens when you, like, something like that trauma to your face, your whole body is just like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And, I will never forget how purple he turned. He was so embarrassed. He thought he broke my nose. I thought he broke my nose.
Wow.
You know? And he had been in the car with us for, like, 10 minutes. It was the first impression he was giving everybody. And it was only the second time he and I had actually met in person. So, yeah, he was just, I bring that up every now and then. I'm just like, yeah, you almost broke my nose one time, you Romeo. And he's just like, shut up. Anyway, she gets him to agree to take her out for a drink. And she is going over to, like, the closet to, like, what is she going in the closet for?
It's like a supply closet. So she probably was going in there to get something for her class.
Okay. And the doctor's there with coffees. And she's like, what the fuck, dude? Where did you go? And he's like, I told you I was getting coffee. And she says, 3 weeks ago.
He also left her in Glasgow. Like, what is with the doctor leaving his companions in Scotland.
I want to know why she agreed to go anywhere with him. Like, let's be honest, guys. You get used to a certain doctor. You even have a crush on him. He regenerates and he seems really different. And then he, like, abandons you in a strange city. I'm done. And
then shows up at your work. And
at your work and it's just like, what's your problem? When you act, like...
And also it's like, okay, I need you to come with me now. Like, what's the guarantee that you get brought back to this moment?
Exactly.
Or did you just disappear again? And you show up 3 weeks later in that closet.
What's the guarantee? Like, she's like, oh, bring me back in time for my date.
Right.
Look, I don't know how to tell you this, but practically every episode of the show is the TARDIS not doing what it was told.
Yeah,
so I don't know how much of that, like, we're supposed to... Yes, it has.
When did it do that recently?
I mean... They wound up in dinosaur times and almost got swallowed.
Well, I don't think that was because of the TARDIS. I think that was because of the Doctor. He was, in his regeneration, wasn't really piloting the TARDIS very well.
Why didn't they just park while he was regenerating?
I don't know. Why didn't they just stay on that planet where they were?
Well, anyway, I stand by it that the TARDIS is unreliable. It does what it feels like, and you don't know that it's going to feel like taking you back for your date.
Right.
I wouldn't risk going again after being treated that way so recently and having a specific plan at a certain time that I really feel like it's important I be back for, I don't know.
Yeah, I was nervous that she was just going to not be brought back.
Mm-hmm.
In a reasonable amount of time where it was explainable. Like, this could affect her job and stuff. The fact that he did bring her back to whatever he says, like 30 seconds since the last time you were here is pretty impressive because we haven't seen that happen very much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was really pleasantly surprised that worked out. Because really, when she asked for him to do that, I was just like, yeah, okay. Like, she's definitely going to miss the date. There's going to be some other fucking, like, star-crossed thing with the two of them. And then that didn't happen, and I was, like, gratified because I would like for her to be able to move on and have a little thing. Mm-hmm. I would be very happy for her, although this guy is definitely the wrong one.
You think?
Oh, yeah. Too much baggage. Like...
He's handsome, though.
Yes, definitely. And clearly, like, a good-hearted dude.
Mm-hmm.
But he needs therapy before he's ready for a relationship. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not trying to disparage him, but, like, look, everybody, it's a good idea. When you start to think that maybe you're trying to find somebody to really settle down with, first get therapy and find out why you pick the people that you pick so that you can start to, like, interrogate the choices you're making a little bit more closely and avoid some of the same patterns that you've maybe engaged in most of your life. From me to you. Life advice I did not take, but probably should have. And it worked out for me, but, you know, I probably would have been a lot less painful if I had gotten therapy to begin with instead of afterwards.
I actually got to a point at one point in my life where I was like, if I'm attracted to them, they're not right for me.
Right.
And so if I met somebody and I was like, oof, him, and I was like, nope. It's probably going to destroy me, so I'm just going to not start.
Just the number of, like, nerdy workaholics that I have been with. It is uncanny, you know? And it's weird, too, because my dad wasn't, like, nerdy, but he was a workaholic, so I'm kind of like, where'd the nerdy part come from? Is that just me? Is that pure? I don't know. But I feel like Clara probably should also be in therapy. She's been through a lot lately.
Yeah.
Just, you know, I don't know, just feels like a good time to sort of... The thing is, though, when what she's been through is what it has been, what do you say to your therapist?
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, yeah. Well,
so I went into this, like, time stream thing,
Dalek and I thought I was going to die. Like, yep. So she goes back to that ship. What is it called? Aristotle?
Aristotle, yeah.
With the doctor. And for some reason, she's able to be, like, roped into this mission. I'm still not totally sure why they let her go. He is, like, he convinces them, but it really doesn't feel like it should have worked. But she gets included, and it's him and Journey and... What's Mr. Pink's first name?
Danny? Danny Pink is not there.
No. But I'm just realizing Journey Blue has a really weird first name. And I feel like Danny is too normal a name. Like, his first name should be like, I don't know, Rain Cloud or something. Something hippie-ish.
No, but did you recognize the male soldier who shrinks down with them?
Yeah, is he, Dolores Ed?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so.
I recognized his voice, and I was like, is that Dolores Ed? And then I got a pretty decent look at his face, where I was like, yeah, that's him.
I love him. He's so good in the books. Like, he's funny in the show, but the books he has, like, even better lines. And
I pictured him more of, like, an Adam Driver-looking person. So when they cast him, I was like, well, that's not right. But he was good on the show.
Yeah. I understand, because, like, he kind of comes across as emo. I mean, Dolores, you know. Yeah. They cast somebody who's a bit more just straight-up comedy, but nevertheless.
Yeah. I just pictured, like, a long face, long nose for some reason. Not necessarily emo, but
I'm going to allege that guy has a long face and nose, though.
He does. I just really, I don't know why. It's not like I pictured Adam Driver in the role, but that sort of look was what
looks like Adam Driver.
Yes, exactly.
Have you been seeing those, like, memes going around where people are casting cats as different, like, characters and things?
No, but I'm interested.
Oh my god, it's really funny. There's a whole thread in that, this cat is a little bit Alexis. And
I'm so glad I told people about that.
It's a great group. And it's all the characters from Schitt's Creek that they're, like, casting as different cats. And the Roland cat is, like, this fucking derpy mess. And it's so perfect. Oh, God. So they get miniaturized. And I didn't really talk about, like, the encounter with the Dalek the first time. But the Doctor is really, like, weirded out because this, his instinct, of course, upon seeing the Dalek is like, evil thing, kill it with fire. Mm-hmm. And the Dalek is like, I saw a star being born and I realized that life could not be stopped. And he's sort of shaken by this, and that's when he asks initially whether Clara thinks that he's a good man. And decides that he's going to agree to go on this, like, mission. So she goes with him, and it's really, like, again, it really only works because it's a Dalek, because otherwise you'd have to do some sort of, like, magic school bus type, like, cellular level shit.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of funny because she's a teacher, so she's like Miss Frizzle. But they are in the, like, metal part of the Dalek. Despite this, there are still antibodies. Yeah. Which is weird. That, like, float in the air.
Well, it's partially organic in there.
Right. It's just that there's no, like, supporting liquid to carry them.
Yeah, they just float around like everything else. Yeah.
And Dolores Ed, not really, like, thinking through the fact that this is a being that they are inside, even though it just looks like metal, is using his, like, grappling hook, is it?
Kind of. Yeah, like, the Doctor's like, we need to get down there, and he's like, okay, cool, and just, like, shoots a crossbow. Mm-hmm. And the Doctor's like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
This is a living thing. Now you're hurting it. What happens when you hurt something?
And Clara is the first one to figure out antibodies, which show up as little, like, metal spheres. And the Doctor gives him something to eat and makes it seem like he's saving him.
I don't know why.
What is the thing that he gives him?
I don't know. It's just a pill.
What did that accomplish?
Nothing?
I don't understand that moment.
I don't either. It feels like something that was maybe going to be something that got written out. Or edited out.
Okay. As long as I didn't miss anything.
No.
But yeah, he, long story short, gets like vaporized. Yeah. And Journey is extremely upset. This comes up again later as well. Journey has just sort of... It's weird. She goes from being completely over the Doctor to then wanting to go with him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, girl, you really need to be like a little bit less impulsive. Think things through. You would not be happy. It would take like a couple hours before you realize you'd made a terrible mistake. In my opinion. What do I know? She'll probably turn up next episode as a companion. So, you know, everybody is really agitated because now that the antibodies thing has happened, it's like they've got to hide from and be very careful of them. The Doctor has like, he's really dealing with the fact that this is seeming to be a good Dalek. And there's a whole thing with Clara, like, saying to him on the TARDIS beforehand that, you know, the fact that you're just saying that no good Daleks can exist does seem a little bit prejudiced. Mm-hmm. And he's sort of like, why am I not paying you? Like, this is very good advice. And I'm like, okay, but literally we've never met a good Dalek. It's never happened. It does not feel like the show thinks that there's a good Dalek out there. And once we find out what's going on, it makes more sense. But it's sort of treated like, well, you're being really bigoted for having this opinion. And I'm like, I'm just going off what you have told me, show. I don't know what you're doing here, but it doesn't, like, I don't feel like this is a thing that makes the Doctor a bad person.
There are the only other two pieces of trivia that I saved were the second Doctor once made good Daleks by converting them with the human factor, even giving them names. Due to the introduction of human thought processes, they questioned the other Daleks, leading to a riot after which the Daleks were destroyed. The 11th Doctor previously met a Dalek known by its kind as the Abomination, which was engineered to be good. After its apparent destruction, he insisted to Amy Pond that there was no such thing as a good Dalek, and that was from a book.
Okay.
So there's some history of there being, every once in a while, a good Dalek.
But they have to be specifically engineered that way.
Yeah.
They are not naturally occurring in the wild.
No.
Yeah. So, I don't know. It's sort of, there's this moment I feel like where we're supposed to think about the fact that he is so bigoted against Daleks. And that is the question about, like, whether he's a good man or not. Like, that seems to be part of what's making him question his own morality. But it's the wrong place to be putting that question.
Yeah, for the most part, I would say he's right. There is no such thing as a good Dalek. They all just want to exterminate everything. Mm-hmm.
And as we find out later, like, there are active memory suppressors. Mm-hmm. So one could say that they are engineered to be bad, too. Because that's, like, built in. Yeah. But, you know, if that's the default, then I don't really know what to say about that. Like, I don't know. It's just so this is part of what I mean when I say that I'm like, I was excited about the idea of let's question if the Doctor is actually a good person, but I'm, you know, not sure that we're going to completely follow through with it, or that we're going to follow through on the, like, for the right reasons. Because it has happened in the past that the show will clearly want me to, like, have a certain takeaway that I do not have. Mm-hmm. And it has felt like sometimes it's because they don't seem to, like, really realize what they're writing. And sometimes it just didn't age well. And they just don't really, you know, they didn't give it the same amount of thought that they would today if they were going to be writing a similar sort of storyline. Maybe. I don't know if they would today. I don't know how the show is now. But the focus being about, like, your hatred of the Daleks, because that winds up being the thing later. Is the Dalek basically, he tries to turn it good by letting it see into his soul. And it's like, wow, you really fucking hate Daleks, huh? All right, let's kill all the Daleks. And he's like, wait, what? No. And, I mean, there's a lot of other stuff going on that we could point out as maybe not being something you want to infuse a brand new to being good being with, you know?
Yeah.
I'm just, for example, abandoning your friend in a strange place and then not talking to them for weeks afterwards. That's maybe one. Anyway, so let's see. I'm just trying to find the spot where, oh my God, I love when they're inside and the Daleks, Doctor. Oh my God.
Did you see the thing that somebody posted in the Mighty Network that is the Dalek leading like a breathing exercise?
Oh my God, no, I did not.
I was watching it the other day. Maybe it's in the Doctor Who group, but I'll have to check the settings and maybe open it up to you if it's not. I was watching it and Jason was like, "That's really good. That sounds just like the Daleks." And I was like, based on the like commentary from whoever posted it, it looks like it's something that was like officially made as a joke, and then this person put like images and stuff, made it into a video.
Oh my God.
But it's really, really funny because its voice like gets more aggressive when it's giving you instructions on like relax. It's just really funny.
Oh God, they are just so...
I find them... See, I know you don't love the Daleks, and I totally understand that. I just find them so hilarious that I think I just have, like, leftover affection, even when I'm like, oh, God, another Dalek episode. Not all Dalek episodes are good. I like this one. Mm-hmm. I didn't mind the Asylum one. I don't like that 1920s pig people one.
Yeah, I don't even remember that. Every time you say it, I'm just like, holy shit.
It's an early one with Amy Pond. Or maybe it's with Martha? It might even be with Martha. Yeah, it's 10, so I think it's with Martha. Really not great. But some of them I think are good because the Daleks, I think, are kind of funny.
I think that's what is so frustrating to me, is that they are funny, but they are so rarely actually played for comedy.
Yeah.
They're played as like this thing that we really need to be afraid of, and when they show up, it's like, oh God, the Daleks, the most terrible villain that has ever, the Doctor's worst enemy, and it's just, they're too funny. I can't take them seriously. So every time they're treated that way, I'm just like, yeah, okay. Like, they are a joke to me.
Yeah.
And so there's the stakes involving them never matter because they have never really felt like much of a threat. Even when they've like kind of won, they haven't felt like a threat.
You always kind of assume that the Doctor is going to best them.
Oh, every time. There's just not even a question.
And it's the same with the Cybermen too, where I'm like, I just don't get the menace.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas something like... kind of creature did we have recently that was actually really...
The fucking Clockwork people are real creepy.
Yeah, they're really creepy. There have been some really good monsters that have a menace to them. I think we talked in the last episode, which nobody gets to hear, about how the angels can be really scary, but they've been overused.
You think they've been overused. I don't agree with you on that.
Okay. I do think they've been overused.
I am like, also, that they fall into the category of like few villains that I actually find scary. Mm-hmm. So I think that they don't feel overused because in comparison to the Daleks and Cybermen, nothing feels overused.
True.
They are just such a well to go back to every time. And it just, at least in this episode, it's made more interesting because we're going into a Dalek and there's like a whole different thing happening.
Yeah.
But when he comes into the ship, Aristotle, and sees that it's a Dalek, I was like, oh no, are we doing this again already? Like, we just saw these guys. Let's have like, at least half a season before we fucking see them again. I
actually said on a recent episode of the Vampire Diaries, I think the one that hasn't posted yet, that, saying, like, we're doing Doctor Who, we're in season 8, and I was like, Natasha's gonna hate the next episode because it's about Daleks.
Yeah, I didn't, it was definitely better than I was expecting, because it didn't feel like it was about the Daleks as a threat so much as about the Daleks, mindset and how they think and come to be, which is a little bit more interesting.
Yeah. I really like this whole thing of, like, finding that there's this radiation leak. And as soon as he said, oh, here it is, this is what's going on. It's the radiation leak, and he seals it up. My brain was like, well, don't do that. Because he's going to go back to being a Dalek.
Mm-hmm.
And it was strange to me that the doctor didn't even consider it. Like, okay, we found out what's going on, and this is infecting him, but it's making him not evil.
Yeah, that was kind of like, well, he's sick. And also, he seems like the one good one. I know correlation is not causation, but maybe look at the correlation a little bit there.
Yeah, and maybe we leave it like this.
Yeah.
And it continues to be irradiated, but, I mean, it's Dalek.
So yeah, that's what, like, the doctor saves him and then realizes that, oh no, now it's evil, and it begins to launch an assault against everybody on this ship. And we get a slightly updated version of, like, the Dalek attack with people's skeletons showing through, which is very, like, Home Alone 2, and I found actually kind of funny, and I liked it. There are a bunch of other Daleks appear, and I wasn't clear where they came from.
Well, their ship is around, but this big ship was hidden by a big asteroid. And Rusty gave them the coordinates of where this ship is hiding. And so the other Daleks came and blasted their way onto this ship.
Gotcha, okay.
And all I could think, seeing that, because they basically blast through the airlock, is, well, you're not going to close it behind you, so whatever you do, these people are going to die. Mm-hmm. Because now their ship has a big hole in it. But they didn't point that out. Watch too much of, like, Battlestar Galactica and The Expanse.
Is The Expanse in space? Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, cool.
No.
Wow. That was incredibly awkward.
I want us to read those books, so no, not at all. Yeah, Expanse is in space.
So the doctor kind of despairs here and is like, oh, see? Fucking Daleks. Pieces of shit. Like I said, no good can come of them. They suck. I was right. And it's a great moment when Clara is like, I can't fucking believe you. We're gonna die. And you're pleased. I loved this. Owen was talking to me about a coworker of his who's like the one sort of right-hand guy that he has, and how something went really wrong at work the other day. And he was ready to fucking hit the guy, because when things go wrong, this dude is always delighted. Because what does he care? It's not his business, and he's not the one that has to, like, stay late to fix a thing. It's not him on the line.
Why would you be happy about that?
Because it's sometimes a similar situation to this, where it's like, well, I told you that wouldn't work. And so he's, like, very smirky and smug over it. Or just, like, you know, sort of again, when it's not you that's going to have to be, like, making up for it, you don't, like, you're just like, well, wow, that really didn't fucking work, huh? All right, well, good luck. I'll see you tomorrow, kind of thing. And I feel like all of us have probably worked with somebody who had that kind of attitude, where it was much more important to them that they be right than it was to do what would make things better for everybody on the team or even themselves. And it can be, like, really baffling when you're somebody that is trying to be logical and there's another person who puts their own, like, vindication ahead of what would make things easier for everybody in the end and better for everybody in the end. The doctor is, like, going to watch this woman, granted somewhat a stranger, and Clara, who he allegedly actually likes, die. And he really feels like he could give a shit. And she slaps him in the face. And she was right to do so. And I liked it. I could, if somebody wants to gift that for me, I would be down to watch it over and over again. And he says something about how, like, this is what we learned, that Daleks are no good. And she's like, do you really fucking think that's what we learned? Is that it? Is that what we learned? And eventually he comes around to, we learned that Daleks can be good. And I'm like, all right, look, yeah, but also, like, he had radiation poisoning. Like, I don't know if that totally counts. Like, you know, it's a weird thing. Now, what we find out is that
it's like when somebody is a good person when they have a brain tumor and you take the tumor out and suddenly they're a dick again.
Yeah, and like the whole thing with the memories being suppressed, and I understand, like, you know, this is part of them being engineered to be as terrible as they are. But it is sort of a weird message, and it feels too much like not all Daleks, kind of, you know what I mean? I don't know. It was just a weird stand to make.
That's the next t-shirt.
Hashtag not all Daleks. Is there something visually distinctive about this one that could be used in that capacity?
Not really.
That's too bad. Maybe we could just put a
little crack in his shell with some radiation coming out.
I was going to say like a tiny capsule with the doctor waving from inside, but that would be really difficult to get across. It'd be a mess. Maybe the front is the Dalek with a little crack, and then the back is like the zoom in on the crack with the doctor waving out of it.
Crack.
Crack. The cracks on the back. So he sends Clara to deal with the memory thing, and they have to, in order to get up there within a reasonable amount of time and deal with this before everybody on the fucking ship is murdered, they have to use one of those grappling hooks. And so one of the ladies sacrifices herself, the soldiers, in a really weird moment of like, I would not take this guy's word for it. Just speaking for myself. She's like, is he mad or is he right? And I'm like, look, everything that this guy has displayed to you about who he is so far should really let you be like, let you know to just don't listen to him.
I mean,
just don't do it. He winds up being right, granted, but from like the evidence does not point to him being right now. Don't do it.
Clara does say maybe both.
Most of the time he's both.
Yeah.
But I just really, like, anytime that people sacrifice themselves on behalf of something that the doctor said, I'm always just like, come on, guys. Your life is worth more than that. Don't do this. But she does, and winds up with Missy in, quote, heaven.
Yeah. What
is this lady? It feels like they're not even really dead. It's like she's just collecting consciousnesses. Is that how one would say that?
I think so.
It's like they're always like people who are like connected to the doctor somehow. So the last one was Clockwork Half-Face Man. And he's like kind of a villain. But then he sort of seems to like come to his senses, but the doctor still winds up having to like kill him. And then this woman is sacrificing herself, but still it's like a death that's sort of because of him in a way.
Maybe the clockwork guy sacrificed himself.
Maybe. I don't know though. It doesn't feel right. I don't know.
Well, remember
because
we had a
question.
question.
It wasn't built into his fucking his software. You know, I feel like he was a robot, man. His software matters. But regardless...
If we've learned anything about robots based on sci-fi for the last, 80 years, it's that they can learn, they can override their own software.
That's true.
They may come to kill us. Probably come to kill us. They may... I don't know. I forget with iRobot there was like one good robot.
Was there?
I think so.
I don't remember that. Yeah, I'm real curious about Missy. She's wild. And, the first time it's like this garden with these ruins, or I don't even know if they were ruins, but it seemed like it. And this time they're in like a parlor and she's pouring tea.
I would like somebody to make me a GIF of Missy spinning around that fountain from the last episode. like a twisted Mary Poppins. I really enjoy her.
Yeah, there's something, too, about her look that, I think I said this last time, that the, oh my God, what is the Sherlock Holmes's, like, kind of love interest?
Sherlock's actual love interest?
Yeah.
On the Cumberbatch version?
Both. Because in the movies as well. I don't know if in the books.
Oh. What, the Rachel McAdams character?
Yes.
I don't remember what her name is. Because all I can think of is Elementary, where Natalie Dormer played Moriarty.
Moriarty, yeah.
Which I thought was a brilliant twist. But I don't remember what Sherlock's actual love interest was. And I still haven't watched Sherlock, so.
She has a very similar look to Missy. The sort of, like, strict governess and very extreme, like, pale makeup with very, very red lipstick and an extremely upright posture.
So you're saying we're seeing into Stephen Moffat's interests
fantasies
here. Okay.
Yes. I definitely think that he is into femdom situations for sure. But yeah, I just kept seeing her and I was like, man, she really is looking like what's-her-face, and I just wish I could remember her fucking name, Jesus.
What did we say that you knew her from? The actress?
Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Right.
She plays Wardwell. Honestly, the names. So yeah, that's a weird little, like, aside in the midst of this episode, because, like, last time, that was how the episode ended. Mm-hmm. But then we get that this time in the middle of everything happening, which I actually kind of liked that being placed there and just jarring you out of things for a moment and going, what is this?
Do you have any kind of theories?
I really don't.
Okay.
You know, I mean, part of me, like I said, it feels like these are people whose deaths were caused by the Doctor somehow, or people who maybe feel like, I don't know. I really don't know.
What do you think that her part in this is? Why is she collecting these consciousnesses? Mm-hmm. You're right. That doesn't sound right. When I said it out loud, I was like, that's
the plural
right.
of consciousness is conchi. I really don't know. Like, it feels like she wants to use them against him somehow, because there's no way this woman is not gearing up to be an enemy. She's too sinister. She's not here to help, you know? But
it reminds
I don't really know how that would go.
We had the eye patch lady who, every time she showed up, I was like, eh. I didn't care if I ever saw her again. I was like, that was weird. And I knew it had to be leading to something, because you don't just throw that in.
Right.
But with Missy, from the first time I saw her, I was like, oh, more of that. She's great. She makes an impression so quickly.
Totally. It makes a ton of sense why she's in Sabrina, too. Like, if you guys watch that show, she is one of the more fun characters in her way. She goes through a lot of growth, too, which is wild to watch. That show is just weird. I didn't finish it. I need to finish it.
She reminds me... God, who does she remind me of? It's like she's a combination of several actresses that all sort of play a sort of sinister type of role. Like, remember on Battlestar Galactica when they find the Pegasus and there's that admiral on that ship? The woman admiral?
No.
Oh.
It's been a long time, though.
She kind of reminds me of her in a way. Just, like, her look. And then maybe a little bit of Narcissa Malfoy, who was also on this show.
Yeah. The weird vampire frog?
Yeah.
Bug? What was it?
Vampire fish.
Fish.
And that great character she played on Penny Dreadful.
Yes.
Yeah.
God, I will never not be mad about that fucking show. Duh. It's just so... Oh, God. It makes me so
how
angry.
to shit the bed in 3 episodes flat.
I mean, they beat Game of Thrones for bad ending, and, like, that really takes some doing. Alright, so that lady dies. Clara uncovers the memories. The doctor connects with the Dalek and, like, shows him his soul. And the Dalek is like, oh, you're right. All the Daleks have to die. Mm-hmm. I am seeing beauty and divinity and the universe. Oh, and hatred. God, you really fucking hate Daleks. Okay, note taken, sir. I will go murder all the Daleks, which he does do. And at the end, he's like, I don't get it, dude. You're being real shitty to me, and I, like, saved you and killed the Daleks, which is clearly what you wanted, so what the fuck? And I'm like, yeah, you know what? You're not totally wrong there. Like, this guy, wanted to... He keeps changing his mind. He's as bad as me. Gets exactly what he said he wanted, and he's not happy. Oh, I changed my mind about what I wanted. Get over it. Nobody cares.
He calls the doctor a good Dalek. Yeah. Which is a good little throwback to the first Dalek episode from the reboot with 9, when that Dalek says, you would be a good Dalek. Or you would make a good Dalek. Which is a different connotation of good. But I always thought that was funny because he was very pissed at that. How dare you? I'm nothing like the Daleks. And you kind of are.
I mean...
Sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
More than willing to kill all of the Daleks. And without question.
It's hard because, like, we've been shown all Daleks are terrible.
Mm-hmm.
So I've never even really been mad about that. That hasn't been the problem. Again, we're coming to the right conclusion for the wrong reasons. It's just a weird... anytime that people can just be like, in your face, Doc, and really get him to sort of stop dead in his tracks, even if they're not entirely right, I appreciate the moment. So I'm just sort of like letting this slide, but it is a weird thing. I'm trying to see exactly where we wind up right after that, because I feel like we go right from him being called a good Dalek to, like, Clara going on her date. Is that not right?
We have that moment with Journey asking to go with them, and the doctor saying no. And then Clara's returned.
I just don't get that. That's such a weird response. Where did this come from? I don't know. But, honestly, the way that all companions get put through the ringer, I'm just always glad when somebody gets passed over. They don't know what a fucking bullet they just dodged.
Yeah.
All right, so we go back to the storage closet, and Clara is about to walk out, and she tells the doctor, I don't know. You asked me if you were a good man, and the answer is, I don't know. But you try. I think you try, is what she says. And I think that's probably the point. And he says, I think you're probably an amazing teacher. Yeah, and she leaves, and he looks a little bit touched standing there. And then when she comes out, she's wearing a totally different outfit. And Mr. Pink is like, what the fuck? Why are you in a totally different outfit? You were in the storage closet. Did you, like, change in there? I'm like, yeah, that is kind of weird, actually. Good point.
But at least he noticed.
That's true. And she gives him some points for that. And he says, are you really going to go for a drink with me? And she says, of course I would. Why wouldn't I? And he says, I thought you had a rule against soldiers. And she says, no. And as she walks away, she says, not me. Again, what?
Where did he get that from?
I have no idea. It's a weird moment. It feels like they, like, cut something earlier that was supposed to lead us to this conclusion. I don't know. It's a weird thing where I'm like, y'all are making a point this episode that I'm not following at all. I don't really understand where this is all coming from all of a sudden.
I I questioned whether I missed something, and I did watch this with captions this time to make sure that I was actually getting all of the dialogue. And I still was like, how am I missing an entire conversation about her having some kind of aversion to soldiers? For him to say that.
Yeah. I think that he's like assuming because of the way that she sort of burned him at the start, he's taking that as like, I don't like soldiers, but that's not even what she was saying, you know? And I don't know. It's just the whole like soldier thing this episode is a weird bit. And it feels like it's brought up enough that this is going to continue. And it's out of nowhere. And I would really appreciate a little bit of like context or backstory or something as to why this is such a thing. But I don't know.
Maybe we'll get it. Maybe we won't. It's hard to say with Stephen Moffat.
True. All right. Well,
so I have this note here. We have no reviews, but I have a little note now in my notes to always remind you to read off any new patrons.
Yes, I'm opening that as we speak.
And I know that last week you read off everybody from July, but that all got lost to the ether, so...
Right. Oh, no, you're right. I think I deleted all of them, too. Fuck.
Sorry, guys.
I'm so sorry.
You still have your audio, right? You could maybe tack it in.
That's true. I'll see about it. I don't want to promise anything. But, God, that sucks. That's so annoying. Oh, well. All right. So I'm going to read what I have so far because I believe that this will maybe bring us... You know what? I'm going to double check some things. So no new reviews, you said?
Nope. Our last one was a month ago. I already read. There wasn't that much interesting trivia. I already read what I saved.
Okay.
But yeah, our last review...
There was an announcement that I was going to make, and now I'm not remembering what it was. All right, I'm going to read what I have so far. We've got Peyton Eastman, Laura Chu Robinson, Aaron Green, Katrina Au, Lisa S., Ida Suniti, Michael Andrade, Jeremy Shepard, Lauren Wolfe, Ben Rudison, Allison DiStefano, The Banner of Homura Akemi. Have I read these?
These might be the ones from last week.
Maybe. David Sturgill, Eric Howd, Kai the Restless Witch, Rebecca Hernandez, Eleanor Grace, Charlie Massa, Rachel Hannah Sorhaindo, Helena Hauksdotter Jacobson, Javier Torres, Kimberly Chung, Mimi Saunders, Angela Yingling, Alyssa Paulette, Emily Lloyd, Emily Rose Collette, Katrin Griswold, Caitlin Brown, Hannah Sauls, Polly the Napalm, Emily, Ashley Braxton, Claudia Hackey, David Clift, Jenna Reads-a-Lot, CP, Nick Syracusa, Trish Konowalik, Tom Less, Brittany Jones, Scott Duke, and Chonita 2006. I think that brings us almost current.
I do believe that was the same people from last week because there's somebody with the last name Yinling, which made me want to ask in the moment if it was spelled like the beer.
It is not quite spelled like the beer, but Rashawn, when I read that name, was like, hey! So you are not the only one with that thought.
Yinling is a pretty good beer.
So hopefully that will bring us to almost current. That's everybody who pledged up until January 15th. So I will update this once we get to the next episode. If you guys are listening and I haven't read your name and you're like, what the fuck, please do email me and I'll be sure to include you next time. Because like I said, I'm trying to catch us up and there's inevitably going to be some confusion with it because of the way Patreon works and how weird this is. So I really want to give you credit if you became a patron. So don't hesitate to do that. Okay, I think that's everything. Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap?
I don't think so.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you for bearing with us. Sorry that we didn't have an episode up last week, but what can you do? There's a curse on me right now, and I'm going to try and get it off. Find some things to burn, and I don't know,
some sage,
some gods to appease. But stick with us. We're trying. We're doing our best. Until next week, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.